it okay to give your baby commercially processed baby food? How do you train your baby to eat more? We'll tackle these and other questions in today's episode, where I'll be joined by Dr. Andrea Carag, a former classmate of mine and now a pediatrician and a mother to her own darling 8-year-old Gabby.
Hi, Dr. Andrea. Hello, how are you? I think it's
Hello.
20 years.
Yeah, 20 years since we last saw each other. Yeah.
Yes,
Thanks for
20
having
years.
me.
Thank you as well for agreeing to join us for this episode. I know you're quite busy, but we really do appreciate that you're joining us for today. Okay, so I crowdsourced my questions to you from three moms that are close to me and who are very hands-on with their child care. They're concerned, of course, with their baby's nutrition and other real everyday topics. Okay, so just to have some semblance of order, perhaps we can go by life phase of the baby, the children.
Sure.
Okay,
Sure.
first question. Are there certain foods that a breastfeeding mom should avoid? Apparently, there's parsley and citrus fruits. We see that. Is that true?
So usually we advise, first of all, that a breastfeeding mother, should have a complete diet. If the mother is not well nourished, then definitely they will have a problem with lactation. We definitely do not advise alcoholic drinks, caffeine because it's a diuretic.
Mm-hmm.
Also because you're breastfeeding and then it'll get passed on to the baby, so you'll have an hyperactive baby. So these are things that we just say to avoid. The others that they say, the sage, the parsley, the citrus fruits,
Yes.
menthol, all of these have been indicated. But I
Uh-huh.
don't think there has been anything to actually prove that
Uh-huh.
there's been a decrease in breastfeeding. So 500 extra kilocalories a day
Uh-huh.
sounds a bit excessive. We
Mm-hmm.
just want to make sure that the mom is eating the regular 3 times a day,
Mm-hmm.
not skipping any meals, and each meal should be what she would usually have for intake. So there has to be carbohydrates, there has to be fruits and vegetables, and there has to be protein for her to incorporate this into the breast milk. I think what everybody's missing out on is that a mother also needs enough sleep and a mother also needs enough hydration. Because if you think about it, you can't produce milk if you don't have adequate water. And what no one really has been saying is that breast milk is produced when the mother sleeps. So if you have a puyat, stressed out mother, definitely you should have a lot less milk.
Okay, sleep. I think that is the most impossible thing to do, especially when there's a newborn. Is there a workaround to this? Can they compensate with
The
supplements or something?
supplements, as the supplements, there are some. Most breastfeeding experts would actually recommend not taking any supplements because the mother tends to rely on them. There are supplements like malunggay. Malunggay is a local favorite, and it has been proven in local studies to increase breast milk production. So you can get this from your local pharmacy. You can get this as gel capsules.
Mm-hmm.
You can also use it because malunggay, it's ubiquitous. It's there outside in the backwood, in the vacant lot. You can also buy it. But
Yeah.
then a lot of the new mothers, they incorporate in soups because you do need a lot of fluid intake. I've seen them put it in bread. So there are definitely different ways that you can actually have malunggay. Other supplements, they're usually imported. Barley, fennel, fenugreek, brewer's yeast. I've heard of papaya. So these things, they're just up and coming new favorites. I think if we go back to the basics of increased fluid intake, you're going
Uh-huh.
to get more breast milk.
This one particular question is interesting. With regard to baby acne, yung, yes, actually usually sa forehead, is baby acne caused by food? Food, either solid food taken by the infant or the mom who is breastfeeding?
Okay, first of all, baby acne has a medical term. It's called neonatal cephalic pustulosis.
Uh-huh.
So all of these, the skin changes that you find in the newborn baby,
Mm-hmm.
usually after birth or up to about a month after. And these happen because the baby was in the tummy for 9 months. That's it, he or she was in water. And then when they came out, they were dry all of a sudden. Your environment. So they lose all of that water. And then so there are so many skin changes that happen. And these are actually normal. So to answer your question, no, it doesn't. It isn't really caused by any food,
Mm-hmm.
whether while the baby was in the tummy or afterwards or in the breast milk. Usually they go away on their own. You just have to consult your pediatrician if it doesn't go away after about a month. And we know it looks disturbing,
It
and but
does.
we always advise, yeah, don't pop it. It will go away. It's normal.
Okay, still related to skin. Filipino moms like to make paaraw, like to bring their babies to absorb some sunlight. But what if, for instance, they live in a place without adequate sunlight, or perhaps since everyone is on lockdown, we're not able to go out as easily? Are there any supplements that are safe for babies?
Okay, first of all, the paaraw or the early
Yeah.
morning sunlight exposure is a necessity for these
Okay.
newborn babies. So not going into very much detail. A lot of the babies when they're born, I don't know if you notice their skin is a little yellow. So they need that sunlight to remove that yellow color. Sometimes you'll really see that the baby is a little jaundiced or a little
Uh-huh.
yellow.
Uh-huh.
So all all babies actually we really recommend outside.
Mm-hmm.
There's a time for it. It's around 6 to 7 in the morning.
Uh-huh.
30 minutes fully exposed back and front, and that's nga to help facilitate removing that yellow color from the skin and then for it to be flushed out.
Uh-huh.
So in the colder climates, or let's say during rainy season,
Yes.
locally we don't have the supplements available, but I do know that in the colder countries they have vitamin D
Mm-hmm.
supplements for this. And then it has been shown that children who are more babies who are more jaundiced have lower levels of vitamin D. It's not a direct correlation yet that it helps remove,
Mm-hmm.
but in the absence of sunlight, of being able to do sunlight exposure, then definitely
Okay, well, going back to vitamin D supplements, if the mom takes it, can it transfer to the breast milk?
so vitamin D is normally found in human breast milk. So they've found that vitamin D, even if the mother takes it in excessive quantities,
Mm-hmm.
they haven't been able to produce a study that that much was brought out in the breast milk. So whatever vitamin D was already being allocated for the breast milk, that's as much as the mother will produce already.
Mm-hmm.
However, if the mother is vitamin D deficient,
Mm-hmm.
it's already recommended that she should be taking it. Now, again, balanced diet.
Yes. Now, next, okay, this question came from a busy career mom. Is it okay to give processed food, well, commercial processed food, let's name a brand, Gerber, which is, of course, ubiquitous in the supermarkets, to borrow your term. Once the pedia gives the go signal to give solid food, yeah, what's your take on this?
Well, as someone who advocates good nutrition, a fed baby is the best. So for me, as long as you're taking the time to feed your baby properly, then you're relatively on the right track. We just want you to stay away from the processed foods that are either too salty or too sweet. And usually I tell the parents that please taste the food. I think the gerber that comes in a bottle, in those bottles, or even they have gerber puffs,
Uh-huh.
they don't have that much taste, or they're sour. They taste like the actual, let's say, the asparagus. It tastes like asparagus.
Uh-huh.
Or the
Uh-huh.
carrots, they really taste like pureed carrots. And
Mm-hmm.
that's exactly what it's supposed to taste like. You're trying to get the baby to appreciate the natural flavors of the food. Now, in there are some processed foods out there that are too sweet and that are too salty. So usually I tell the parents, taste the food. If for you as an adult you find it yummy, it's most probably too sweet or it's most probably too salty. And you shouldn't be giving that to your child. So I think that's a good way to gauge what you should be giving and what you can. So yeah, it's okay because if you're too busy, who else will feed the child, diba? How else will you
Uh-huh.
be feeding
Uh-huh.
your baby? So
Yeah.
just give what you can, but just make sure nga na you're keeping the extra sugar and the extra salt at a minimum. Yun lang.
Moving on from infants, go now to toddlers and young kids. I have a mom friend whose baby is almost 2 years old and copies his 6-year-old brother, who always
Oh, yeah.
drinks these commercially popular. I also drink this chocolate drinks like Chucky, Chocolate, and Dutch Mill. I don't know why they're so popular, but I myself drink them sometimes. Of course, we know that these commercial chocolate drinks and other flavored drinks have sugar in them. What is your take on giving these flavored drinks on an almost everyday basis or very regularly?
Well, as you mentioned, they are pretty high on sugars. So we tell parents to avoid giving it to babies because we're trying to avoid them picking up a preference for
Mm-hmm.
these really, really sweet foods that they're going to start looking for it in their everyday food. Because as babies, they're very easily impressionable. And by the time they're toddlers, they've already picked up on what they like and what they don't like.
You mentioned preferences. What is the so-called formative years for a baby or a toddler to develop the taste?
Oh, so you'd be surprised. They actually found out that it starts in utero. Hello.
Why?
So preference for taste, they've actually discovered that it starts in utero. Like that means inside the mommy's belly. When the mom eats certain foods,
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
sometimes these are the foods that the child really, really likes to eat when they're starting complementary foods because that was what the child was exposed to when the mom was still pregnant. So nutrition actually starts when you are pregnant. So maintain a good balanced diet during pregnancy. We call this the first 1,000 days of life. So it's the 270 days of gestation when you're pregnant. It is plus the 365 days of the first year and the 365 days of the next year. So those first 1,000 days are very, very crucial in forming your child's feeding journey. Okay,
Mm-hmm,
so that's why we always say, maintain a balanced diet
mm-hmm,
during pregnancy, and hopefully your child will get to taste all of these new flavors while he's in utero, he or she's in utero. And then as you are feeding the child, complementary feeding, or you're also going to be presenting this your baby with all these different foods and different flavors. So
mm-hmm.
usually what you provide most of the time, that's usually what the child tends to pick up on. So that's why we always say it usually has to be bland, usually have no salt, no sugar.
Mm-hmm.
Because if they are used to the excessive sugar or the excessive salt, then that's what they'll prefer when they turn into toddlers.
Okay, so speaking of developing their tastes, are there any safe and recommended vitamins which are so-called pampagana to young kids? By that, I refer to maybe 3 to 6 year old children.
Okay. So first of all, a lot of the pampagana vitamins, the ones
Uh-huh.
that boost appetite, a lot of them are just multivitamins. So that's first, because I get a lot of these questions all the time. Usually, I just take a look at the child, if the weight and height, if the BMI, if it's okay for age, then there are no other problems. And then I see that for the past, let's say maybe 6 months, that the child has been gaining weight the right way,
Mm-hmm.
then usually I just will just say okay to whatever multivitamins that they want. The moment I see a problem, if the child's underweight or if chronic na yung malnutrition, like it's been going on for a long time, uh, she's not tall enough or stunted already,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
then I'll really say something. So there are I don't want to mention them because I don't want the parents to rush outside to buy them because a lot of the times also your child's not underweight. Your child's just the right weight. He's just not chubby. That
Okay.
sometimes that's an issue. They
Yes.
want their
Yes.
babies to be chubby.
Uh-huh.
Pero so what I always tell the parents, parang mommy, kung hindi naman po kayo chubby, paano magiging chubby si baby? The genetics plays a big role in
Uh-huh.
it
Uh-huh.
also. If the parents were slender or if they grew up relatively on the slim side,
Mm-hmm.
chances are the child is going to be slim. But then when we check the weight, it's normal for age.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that child will have no need for additional vitamins aside from what already is being prescribed. So that's what I also try to enforce to the parents also. You have to wait for your doctor to say something.
Mhm.
If your doctor doesn't insist on adding the nutrition or adding these vitamins, then you're on the right track. There's no need.
Yeah. Okay, I'd like to ask you naman about your own experiences with your 7-year-old daughter, and you're 7 years an expert, of course, apart from your medical school background and then being a pediatrician. Are there any challenges that you yourself faced with regard to feeding and nutrition?
So my problem was when my child was a baby, she wasn't with me a lot. I was in residency training, so she grew up with her grandparents,
Mm-hmm.
uh, who admittedly might not have the best nutritional practices. So when I came back, so she was used to being spoon fed at, I don't know, 4 years old. She
Uh-huh.
refused to eat at the table. She'd always eat in front of the television. Getting her to eat new things was horrible.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the problem. So that was my challenge. So retraining her to eat properly or to at least be able to try new foods because I was basically starting from scratch when she was around 4 years old. And that's really hard. So that's why I usually sympathize and I empathize with the parents who are saying, per my child's a picky eater. No, it's okay. I understand. I understand. So I actually can advise them. And usually it's basic things like no gadgets at the table
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of parents, when they're feeding their child, oh, here iPad while they're eating. So that's actually counterproductive because it makes them think that they can sit in the chair all day and take 2 hours, 3 hours to eat lunch. So that's one. Number two, you have to time your meals. 30 minutes, finished or not finished, past your papers. End of the meal. Also, a child needs rules. You can't just always give in. Oh, that's another thing. I think kids nowadays, they're more conscious with how the kids are feeling.
Mm-hmm.
They always tend to give in to the
Mm-hmm.
kids. Oh, parang I always get that. Parang, oh, mommy, you have to make sure that the child eats at least 3 hours kasi breakfast, lunch, dinner.
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes I get the weird response by, Doc, ayaw kasi niya.
Uh-huh.
Wait, no, no. So children still need rules.
Mm-hmm.
They need that structure in their life. They need someone to tell them, no, you will sit down at the table from this period to this period, and then you will eat what's in front of you. If you don't want to eat it, you're still going to sit there. And then after 30 minutes, whatever you have finished, then okay.
So, what's one concrete strategy that you've tried and worked so far?
So usually some parents think kasi that they need to give their children a choice of whether they want to eat or not.
Mm-hmm.
You're still going to give your child a choice. You're just going to give her it. Okay, like that. I always make sure there's more than one viand at the table. Okay, so do you want to eat A or do you want to eat B? Those are your only two choices. But it's also not the do you want to eat? Of course, if I ask that, she's going to say no. She just want to eat. So that's what you do instead. The choice that you give her are choices that are okay with you. That goes on with anything, not just feeding. Like, okay, do you want to watch TV now or do you want to fix your toys now and watch TV later? So it's a choice that is okay with her, but it's okay with you also.
Mm-hmm.
So that's also what I learned really helps. Making sure that they are allowed to choose,
Mm-hmm.
but the choices given are
Two
controlled.
positive things. So, do you want to eat broccoli or
Two positive
cauliflower?
things. Yeah, like that.
It will
Yes.
work. Like,
Most of the time it will work and it'll take a while.
uh-huh. But overall, what do you advise to moms, especially to young moms? What should they focus on when it comes to nutrition for their babies, for their children?
Well, if you're just starting,
Mm-hmm.
definitely you'll need some form of guide or some form of schedule. If you're the type of mom that doesn't want to think about the everyday, what am I going to feed my child, you can just do it all in advance and then freeze everything and then just microwave it. Also, we recommend starting complementary feeding at the right time. So this is at 6 months. Whether you want to have a certain diet for your child or you want to do it the traditional way of starting with purees, what we just recommend is that, again, consistency, have a routine every day. Make sure that your child tries a variety of foods, and then by the end of the 1 year, as long as you're getting carbohydrates, your fruits and vegetables, and your protein, then you're doing okay. As soon as your child hits 1 year old, you can start using the healthy plate diagram. So that usually shows you how much carbohydrates, how much proteins, and how much fruits and vegetables they need per meal. Not That's not per day, per meal. So it's just a guide, but it's a good guide.
Yun ba yung Go, Grow, and Glow foods natin in grade school? Is that still you?
They did try to incorporate. So ano na siya, pinggang Pinoy. So per plate, like per plate, it's section. So let's say the child is about 1 to 3 years old, maybe a 1/4 of that or a little more carbohydrates, then a small portion proteins, then the rest fruits and vegetables.
Any other final words that you'd like to share with your fellow moms? Of course, coming from a mom and coming from a doctor that you are.
Okay, so I go back to the, if it's stressing you out, something is wrong. If other people are telling you negative things, trust your mother's intuition. It's most of the time correct.
Oh, I like that. And your baby will grow up okay. See, we grew up okay, right? Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Andrea. I know you're involved with a lot of mothering related initiatives. Maybe you can tell us more about them.
So I handle the social media accounts of, one is my clinic. So please check us out at the Pedia Clinic PH on Instagram, Facebook. I actually even have TikTok, but there's nothing there. And then along with three other parent professionals. So that's me and a teacher, a psychologist, and a sleep expert. So we created the parenting collectives. Usually we have the parenting tips there. So we're all about positive parenting and how to raise your children to be responsible, forward-thinking adults. And we're just basically preparing you and your child for life in the most positive way that can that you can attain.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Andrea. Thank you for your time, for sharing
Thank you for
your.
having me.
I'm sure our moms really learned a lot. I'll see you sometime, maybe in our velada, our 25th reunion. And that's soon, gosh, 5 years from now.
Yes. Oh my God,
Yeah.
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 Looking forward to it.
All right. Okay, thanks.